Hello, I am Yara Fernandez, and I am building up the quantum and space education ecosystems worldwide through global collaboration and working on multicultural interdisciplinary teams. So I get asked some of the same questions consistently, and I decided to make a video series where I'm able to put a lot of information to answer the most frequently asked questions. So in my previous video, I shared how I have actually been able to enhance my career, create opportunities through preparing my kids as a single mother for global collaboration. So to recap, when I would teach my kids about different countries, I would reflect also on myself before teaching them. So for example, let's say we picked a country, I would think, okay, when I hear the name of this country, what are the first few thoughts that come to mind? Why do I think those thoughts? Where is the source of that information that has contributed to those thoughts? What media am I consuming? What personal life experiences have I been having with that country that has maybe contributed to those thoughts? Or have I had any experiences with that particular country? Have I been to that country? Have I talked to people who are from that country? Have I interacted with people from that country? Have I interacted in person with the culture? Or perhaps have I used technology to create opportunities to interact with people from that country? And am I consuming like positive media that is giving me positive news about that country, right? And and what are my life experiences with that country? And if I have not had any life experiences with that country, how can I create them? So I was searching for positive life experiences, you know, with Libya. Okay. So I searched for people in Libya because I hadn't had life experiences yet. And that's how I met Abdul Malik Beytumal, who is like, wow. When I talk to him on Zoom, we are like talking for hours, ranging from many different topics. And he is building up quantum education in Libya and has the expertise to build up amazing things, not only in Libya, but worldwide. Absolutely amazing person. And again, like this is me thinking with a positive lens. Like, wow, I'm gonna look at Libya. I'm gonna look for positive news. I'm gonna look for, awesome people in Libya. And that's what happened. So yeah, I've been awake since 4 a.m. and we were talking for a few hours. And you'll have so much expertise, like that's very interesting. I stayed awake without coffee while we were talking because it's amazing what you've accomplished.
I'm having great conversations with you. It's been like many hours now we're having this talk.
Yeah, we are
So
both
yeah,
quantum enthusiasts. So I covered how I've worked with amazing people through doing this. And how I have really brilliant friends through doing this. So in the last video, I covered Dr. Miriam Sani, who I met because I was searching for positive news about Saudi Arabia. And then I covered Eldridge DeMello, who is my dear friend. I have worked with both Dr. Miriam Sani and Eldridge DeMello. So Eldridge DeMello is from Angola. And through me searching for positive news overseas, that is really how I met him. And so actually, when I first watched Eldridge uh, virtually in 2020, my son was next to me. So yeah, I was searching for positive news and virtually I met Eldridge DeMello. He was a speaker. And also, of course, I was searching for positive news about Libya, and I met my friend Abdul Malik Beytumal. So in Arabic, I believe his last name means house of money. It's a really cool name. So again, I go over positive news about different countries. I try to discuss how we're all connected, how what happens in one part of the world has potential to affect other countries, so they could kind of like see that. And then I'll talk about like innovations and histories of this part of the world because again, I'm trying to whatever we consume, it affects our vibe when we interact with people from those cultures. So in this video, I will also talk about other ways that I have prepared my kids for global collaboration and just other tidbits of information to answer the questions I get consistently. So for example, um, this is something that works for my family. I am not saying that this would work for anybody else's family. Go over how different disciplines relate. So, for example, I might go over like how different disciplines connect. So, like, how does math connect to science, connect to history? And, I will go over that. And then it also helps with positive news. Like, it's like a STEM history thing. Like, okay, this country, like India, invented the number zero. What was going on at that time? How do you think people felt? So like trying to kind of incorporate thinking about other people and their feelings by like, okay, in history, like how do you think people felt when this happened, when that happened? And then making sure I'm going over like positive stories in history. So making sure that I'm talking about accomplishments in different societies, achievements around the world, and giving like a balanced, uh, like a geographically balanced of discussion about history. Um, I go over like more than one continent, and then I want them to see like, hey, wow, like this country had this achievement. Wow, they had this brilliant individual who did this, who did that, and we'll go and discuss it and and I try to reflect on that. And so I'm always learning something new. If you speak English, you can find news based in other countries that speak English, right? Like sometimes with my kids, I'll go and I'll say, okay, let me look for positive news in another country, like, oh, was there an invention or something? And I'll, go through that. And so I'll see like an article with that is written by somebody based in a certain country and it's in English and boom, I talk about it with my kids. So things like that I love doing with my kids. So we talk about current events, including international news, and then we'll have discussions. Okay, like how do you think this affects other countries? How do you think that this could potentially affect um, or be connected with other countries? And that kind of gives them a way of thinking about global collaboration. And maybe in the future, like, if they're adults, they'll think about, okay, how can I make something from this country happen with this country? So because I personally collaborate globally, right? So I'm always thinking about, oh, I can learn something from one of my friends who's in another country. We can make this happen, so I want my kids to think like that. I hope that gives a background of why I raised them like that. So I talk about how different countries are connected. And then I'll also talk about like resources. So I'll talk about, did you know Morocco has like a high amount of phosphate and that it affects the international food supply? That's something that I discuss, and then I'll go over, okay, what languages do they speak? What are some positive examples from history? And then it helps them like understand that we're all connected and we all need each other as a human race, right? Well, at least that's what I explicitly will say, like, wow, like it's good that, we have this happening in this part of the world. This affects us. Like this affects, us in different ways. And I'll have these explicit conversations to show how we're interconnected. Sometimes I'll talk about technology, like, wow, like we're connected through the internet. So this is happening, that is happening. Supply chain, like when you build rocket ships, what goes into like building this, building that. Are the scientists maybe from different countries? How are they educated? We go into like really deep discussions just talking about that. So, so yeah, we go into very deep discussions talking about like, oh, okay, how does the global supply chain work? Like if we're building like a rocket ship, like where do they get the different parts from? The people who are building this rocket ship, you know, uh, what's going into that? So we have a lot of different discussions. Sometimes I talk to people from around the world, and people have different views on like parenting or things of that nature around the world. Okay. Um, so I've also read like biographies of, different families. So when I upskill, as we're in the fourth industrial revolution, and so all of us have to be lifelong learners. And I don't view my lifelong learning as something I have to do separate than my kids. I don't go, oh, okay, it's time for mommy to read this high level book and you guys just go play video games. I don't think like that. I try to get my kids involved. What works for us, again, it does not mean it works for anybody else. I'm just answering questions. I might read about economic history, about central banks, quantum computing. And yeah, even with my youngest son, who is not even in middle school, um, we might talk about different topics. And so I don't avoid advanced topics with my kids. And to be honest, this has to do with the fact that I do have international experience and I read about like how things are done around the world. Not only read, but I actually talk to people all the time from other countries. I'm in Miami, which is an international city, so I always have friends that like I can ask them like, how did you learn this in this country that you are from? How were you taught history about this circumstance? What age? Things of that nature. So through conversations, through having friends, I'm able to do this. The youngest son, I told him pick a book, and he picked a book about like trading gold. And it's actually an interesting book. And so I asked them to pick the book. So they're like kind of taking ownership over the decision. And so we were reading about like trading gold and why get into gold. And let's say there's like an advanced vocabulary word, then I break down the word and I go into like what this word means with analogies. We'll use ChatGPT. So I will go into ChatGPT and I'll be like, okay, break this down, this vocabulary word down for a 5-year-old. And then it breaks it down. Or break it down for a 6-year-old, whatever. And then it will make analogies right there. So that's what I do. Um, and I hope that explains a lot. So yeah, I'll take an advanced like adult book. I'm thinking right now in my head a book called Calculus of Finance. I will go and I will like put a prompt in ChatGPT and I'll say like, okay, break this down, break this concept down for a 5-year-old to understand. And then it does that. And also I will like look up activities where my kids can just consistently go places where they're making new experiences all the time, especially with people like they don't know. I want them to be comfortable with that and people that come from like a variety of different backgrounds. So just recently we were meeting people from Lebanon, from all over the world, different languages being spoken, and I will explicitly maybe like talk to them about, their experiences as well, and they will ask questions and we go over that. So yeah, that's what I do. So yeah, thank you so much for listening, and I hope that answers the questions. But there's a lot of questions I get asked about my kids, so my kids are interesting.